Welcome to this Xenogenics training module on the Milestone Operations Force.com application platform. We've recently added a new capability to be able to record start times for different clients and to automatically allocate colleagues to those start times on the planning page. That's what this tutorial is designed to cover. So what are we going to cover in this tutorial? Well, first of all, we're going to start by a quick overview of a test customer site record so we can see how this record is related to a customer site term and condition junction record, which in turn will identify who are the colleagues who could potentially work at this site. Then we're going to look at how to enter a booking requirement or a start time requirement on the Add Bookings tab. Once we've added those booking requirements, we then want to see how are we going to view the booking requirements that we've added and keep track of these so we can see whether they've been planned or whether they are not planned. Then we'll visit the planning page and see the changes to the planning page for this customer site. And then we'll show you the button that we have which enables you to allocate colleagues to the start times that we created earlier. And we'll demonstrate how this takes place and also explain how the allocation is actually decided by the system. We'll keep an eye on looking at the status of the bookings as the allocation are saved on the planning page. We'll also look at how we can assign a colleague to an unplanned booking requirement and how this will create a new booking requirement automatically. And what happens when you change the plan start time. Well, this will also change the assignment of start time records that we have on the bookings tab. And that'll cover this tutorial. Let's begin then by taking a look at the site record called UK Logistics. So I've got a record here showing the account record called UK Logistics. This account record, for test purposes, has got a site term and condition record related down here, which is the UK Logistics LGV1 terms and conditions record. So I'm going to click on this so we can see who are the colleagues that are eligible to work at this site. If I look at this site term and condition record, we can see that there is a site term and condition junction related to it. I'm using the hover here to show this, and this lists all the colleagues that are eligible to work at that particular role on that site term and condition for this site. So having identified the site terms and conditions and the colleagues entitled to work, note their preferred start times, I now want to have a look at the booking requirements. So normally what we would do is we would go, there are two tabs here, one called Add Bookings and another tab called Current Bookings. If we click on the Add Bookings tab, I'll open this in a new tab. You can see what you would normally see. You can see an input page that allows an organization to enter their start times. I've already created some start times, so I'm going to click on another tab to be able to show these. So effectively we look up the name of the site that we're planning for, define the role, look at the planning date, default it to status not planned. If we wanted to specify that a start time must be fulfilled by a particular agency, we can look up the agency name here. I've left this blank in this case, and I've chosen some start times here. If I want to add another start time row, I can just click Add Booking, and this will give me another row. So I might want to add another one here. I'm just copying it sometimes faster, and I'm going to put on here like 2000, which I can type in or I can just scroll and look for a number. Once I've got that list of start times, that I want to add, I can save these start times. And it's worth mentioning that as well as manually entering these, we've provided the facility to upload a spreadsheet with a list of start time requirements or booking requirements that will do this function for you. So if I save this record, this particular page goes blank, but if I want to see what I've saved, I can look up the name of the site here. I can type in the date, September the 1st, and I can click go. And then what I see is the required start time. So if I wanted therefore to add some more to this, I could just simply add another start time and add it to the row. So that shows how we build booking or start time requirements. If we want to then look at what we've currently got, again we can just simply go to a tab which gives us a view of all the start time requirements, and it's a matter of constructing a list view here. So if I look at, I've created one here before called UK Logistics Bookings. I click go. I have another way of actually seeing this list of all these start time requirements and the particular times for a particular date. I've just set up a filter to be able to filter all the bookings by this particular customer name. That concludes the introduction to the Bookings tab. Okay, we've now covered all the first 4 items, and we've now reached the stage where we're going to generate a planning page for the customer site, because we've generated some start time requirements, we have some colleagues with appropriate terms and conditions. So we're going to generate the planning page, then we're going to show you how to allocate colleagues to the start times. Then that'll become then we'll take you into the detail as to how the system allocates start times. Okay, we're now on the planning page, and I've already populated the site that I'm searching for. I'm looking for a planning day of the 1st of September 2011, not specifying any given agency, and I'm choosing the LGV1 role. I'm going to click search. It's generating a new looking planning page here. Let's just review this for a moment. First thing is all the colleagues that are potentially eligible to or available for within that role are listed down the left hand side. Each colleague now has a hover link, so you can see information about the colleague. So we can see this colleague is available. We can see that it has a preferred start time of between 0400 and 0800. So each colleague has other information. We can see if he's in this exercise we just happen to have associated it with a test agency. I'll ignore that for this particular demonstration. We can see that his status is available, and we can see here the past shifts over the 28-day rolling view. So from the 5th of the 8th to the 1st of the 9th. So here's our planning day. So the next step is to use this new button called Allocate Start Times. This chart tries to explain the logic that is being used to decide how start times are allocated. So I'll talk you through it fairly slowly. First thing happens is when you click the Allocate Start Times, the system is automatically finding all the available eligible colleagues for the site and for that particular role. Once those colleagues have been found, then in box 2 what we're doing is we're checking to see if any colleague checking to see if there are any existing colleague shift records on the planning day. So in other words, is there something already been planned for them? Well, no, in our case, no, they're not. So if there's no shift records that are being found, then the system starts to look at the start time requirements or the booking requirements. I've used, maybe have a look at the first one, which I'm calling ST1, looking for the first start time record. Once it's found that, then it goes into a number of conditions. Let's look at box 4. What it's looking for is finding any colleagues that have got a a preference start time where the midpoint of that preference start time is the same as the start time requirement. So for example, if a colleague had a preferred start time of between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock, the midpoint is going to be 10 o'clock. So if the 10 o'clock start time was required, it would try and find colleagues where the start time is in the middle of their preference. And if they find one of those colleagues, then what happens is we go along this arrow here, we enter the colleague in the planning slot. But if there's more than one colleague, supposing we've got more than one colleague who has a start time preference of 8 till 12 o'clock, and the start time requirement is 10 o'clock. In other words, there's more than one that meets this criteria in box 4. Then what we do is we look at the colleague who has the least number of shifts in the prior planning week. Whoever has the least number of shifts in the prior planning week, we're going to enter that colleague in the slot. But suppose the condition is that there is more than one colleague who've got the same number of prior shifts, then we simply allocate those in alphabetical order. Then the colleague is selected for the plan and it's entered in the time slot. So now supposing, having looked at this start time requirement and checked to see all the colleagues who've got a midpoint start time preference, supposing there are no colleagues left, no colleagues available with a midpoint reference, what do we do then? So then we're looking for any colleague where the ST1, the start time requirement, is within the start time preference but not at the midpoint. And if one or more colleagues are found, we simply allocate those colleagues randomly to the available time slots. If no colleagues are found from this condition in box 5, then we look at box 10. What we're looking to do here is to find a colleague with a shift record in the prior 7 days, where that shift time is within 2 hours of the required start time. So supposing in our case we've got a start time requirement of 3 o'clock in the morning, and there are no colleagues of that where there's a time preference that includes 3 o'clock in the morning, we're going to find out whether or not actually in the past 7 days has any colleague actually worked within 2 hours of 3 o'clock in the morning. If we find that there's more than one colleague found with that meets that condition, we go through this loop here. In other words, we find who's had the least number of shifts, and then if the same number of shifts, then we decide the whole thing by alphabetical order. But if we just find one colleague here that meets this criteria, then we'll put them in the planning slot. Finally, if no colleagues are found, then the time slot is unallocated. Then we go around the whole process through all the time slots to be able to allocate all the time slots. We repeat the logic, and then the planner can edit or save the plan. And once the plan has been saved, then the time slots or the booking records are recorded as either not planned or as planned.